What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to talk about what I feel is currently one of the most underrated guns in Modern Warfare 2, and this is the BAS-P. I'm going to be sharing a lot of the stats, comparing it with some of the top SMGs in the game, and I'm also going to share my current favorite class setup to use with this gun. Now you guys might remember when the BAS-P was first introduced in Season 1, it was pretty terrible. It had the slowest time to kill in the SMG category, it had assault rifle level sprint out time, so you couldn't even get the benefits of an SMG, and there really just wasn't much reason to ever use this gun over any of the other SMGs in the game. It was really in an awful state when it was first added. And since then, it has been getting consistent buffs, but very small buffs. It was really incremental. And I think this is one of the reasons that we didn't see this suddenly explode in the meta, is there was never an update where it went from being a bad gun to an amazing gun, and instead it just got a little bit better over time and it's been creeping up. And now it's reached a point where I truly feel this can compete quite well against some of the top SMGs in the game. Now in saying that, I do want to be clear, I'm not necessarily saying the BAS-P is now the best SMG by far, and it's going to be all over ranked play and the CDL players are going to start using it or anything. I don't think it's quite that good. I just think it's extremely underrated at this point, and it can very easily hold its own against some of those top SMGs. So let's get right into a comparison here, looking at the time to kill potentials at various ranges. And the first one I want to compare it to is the Vel 46, because as of right now, I do feel the Vel 46 is the best sort of flex SMG, where it's not just designed to dominate up close, but it also holds its own at those mid ranges as well. And that's kind of where the BAS-P falls as well. And as we can see here, the BAS-P does kill a little bit slower up close. In fact, the BAS-P still does have the slowest time to kill potential in the SMG category, but don't let that deter you. I think that's one of the reasons that people don't use the BAS-P, is they see, oh, it's the slowest time to kill, I'm not going to use this. First off, I just want to point out here, that time to kill difference isn't massive by any means. This is like 1 or 2 frames we're talking here, but more importantly, the BAS-P is much more consistent than something like the Vel 46, because you only have to hit 2 out of your 4 torso shots in order to get that 4-shot kill with the BAS-P, whereas with the Vel 46, you have to hit all 4 shots to the torso, or you have to mix a headshot in if you want to get that time to kill. So that's not going to be happening as often as with the BAS-P, and therefore, at least in a lot of situations, you're technically going to be killing much faster with the BAS-P compared to the Vel 46. Additionally, you'll notice the range values are significantly better on the BAS-P. Our overall power before we drop off to that minimum damage range is going to extend significantly farther than the Vel 46, which can make it a lot more versatile at those mid ranges. And now I also want to throw the VASNEV 9K in here just for comparison's sake, because it is widely considered to be the best SMG in the game currently, especially for ranked or competitive play. And I just wanted to show how the BAS-P sort of fits in with the Vel 46 and the VASNEV. And when we take a look at the range windows where each of these guns is going to have the dominant time to kill, obviously the VASNEV 9K right up close and personal from 0 to 9 meters, it is going to be the dominant SMG by a noticeable margin as well. So there's no question there, that's where the VASNEV shines, and it will dominate both of these SMGs there. But outside of that, now the race is just between the Vel 46 and the BAS-P. And we can see from that 9 to 50 meter range, the BAS-P is actually going to have a better time to kill potential than the Vel 46, especially if you do consider the consistency difference there as well, where again, in that 4-shot kill range, you only have to hit 2 shots to the torso with the BAS-P, whereas you have to hit 4 with the Vel 46. And when you consider that, the BAS-P is actually looking pretty solid as a more mid to somewhat longer range SMG. Now, of course, that is just looking at our raw power potential, or our time to kill potential at range. I also wanted to take just a quick look and comparison at the recoil here between these 3 guns, and I'm just going to look at the base recoil. Of course, you can improve the recoil with all of these while using attachments, but just for a simple comparison, I wanted to look at the base guns. And with this, all of these tend to just kick a little bit upwards with a little bit of a zigzag there. While the magnitude of the VASNEV is the lowest, it also has the most horizontal recoil. The Vel 46 has a nice straight up recoil pattern. Keep in mind, you're also firing 40 rounds there instead of 30, so it does make that magnitude look a little bit higher than it actually is. And the BAS-P, I would say, is somewhere in the middle, where there is still that little bit of a zigzag that you have to compensate for and be ready for, but overall, it's still relatively easy to control that. Now, out of these 3, if I had to choose recoil-wise, I'm still going with the Vel 46. I do think it has the easiest recoil to control, simply because it has the least amount of that horizontal movement as it zigzags. But that's not to say that I don't feel comfortable with the BAS-P at a bit of a range, especially when I put some recoil mitigating attachments on there. Now finally, when it comes to handling and movement stats, all 3 of these SMGs are close enough in those areas where it's not even really worth mentioning too much. although the Vel 46 does have a slightly slower aim down sight speed compared to the VASNAV and the BAS-P, which are both tied at 210 milliseconds. But yeah, outside of that, it's pretty much a wash when we're talking handling and mobility, and also all three of these have an incredible bullet velocity for an SMG at 540 meters per second. So with all of this in mind, looking at this comparison now, the BAS-P is actually looking like a very competitive options with these other SMGs as that more mid to somewhat longer range gun. Of course, like I said earlier, the VASNAV is still the clear choice for like right up close and personal if you're in the same room within 10 meters. Yeah, these other guns are simply not as good in that situation, and that's why I don't see the BAS-P like taking over ranked play or anything. But for regular public matches, just getting around the map, getting your streaks up, having a lot of versatility with the gun where if you need to stretch a little bit, you can do that, but you can still hold your own just fine right up close and personal against the other SMGs. In those cases, I really think this gun doesn't get enough attention now, and if you haven't given the BAS-P a try lately, definitely give it a go. I think you're really gonna like it. And as promised at the beginning, I did want to share the class setup that I'm currently enjoying and having a lot of fun with. Obviously, if you want to make some adjustments to suit your playstyle, that's totally fine, but this is my current all-around build and the build you've been seeing in the background gameplay. And with this, you can see I sacrificed a little bit of aim down sight speed, but we still have a great speed at 245 milliseconds. I also sacrificed a little bit in the base movement speed department, but in doing that, I was able to gain some extra sprint speed, as well as, most importantly here, our aim walking movement speed, which will allow us to strafe a lot more effectively in gunfights. And you can also see the recoil on this is significantly improved compared to the base recoil, which allows me to stretch that range out pretty confidently, at least for an SMG. Of course, I'm probably still going to be avoiding gunfights beyond like 50 meters or something, but within 50 meters, I can hit my shots pretty consistently with this. And with that, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover here. Although I did want to let some of this gameplay play out because I did really go off in this game. And yes, I am fully aware this was a very easy lobby. That does happen from time to time. I've been seeing a huge resurgence in comments lately with people accusing me of reverse boosting. Just want to remind you guys, I don't reverse boost, but I do tend to play weekdays during the day. I select only one game mode, and I party up with viewers every time I stream, so anybody's welcome to join, and this tends to yield a good mix of lobbies. And of course, the games and the clips that you see on YouTube tend to be the highlights. These are the games where I performed really well, or even just the streaks where I performed really well, and I tend to cut out deaths, which can make the games look a little bit better. I just felt the need to address this and defend myself a little bit here. I don't reverse boost at all. I get that me playing during the day, during work hours, because this is my job, does tend to yield a better mix of lobbies overall, and therefore it may not be representative of the experience that you'd see on like weekday evenings during peak hours, if you have really good stats and you're a skilled player. And it is kind of frustrating that, of course, I'm going to record my better games and my better clips, and now I'm getting the feeling like I shouldn't even be posting my good clips and my good games, and I have to pick the bad games in order to upload to YouTube, otherwise I get criticism. It's just kind of an awkward situation, but if you guys ever want to come join up and see how you stack up in these same lobbies that I'm playing in, feel free to come by my stream sometime, and anybody is welcome to join, regardless of skill level. But that little tangent aside, if you guys haven't tried that BAS-P out, give it a shot. I really think you're going to like it, especially in pubs. I don't know if it's going to be all that viable in ranked play. Maybe in some of the lower ranks, you'd be able to use this as sort of a flex role. But honestly, you're probably better off sticking with the current meta for ranked play. And with that, this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. If you've given the BAS-P a shot since the Season 3 Reloaded update especially, what are your thoughts on this SMG now compared to the others? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's really underrated? Or do you think it's still not so great? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.